Japan Times Sustainability Roundtable. And I think you can see these wonderful fashion items we have here. Today our guest is a wonderful person who is involved in the repurposing or upcycling of fashion items into new fashion items.
Yes.
So I'd like to welcome Chie-san.
Thank you.
From Vivat Veritas.
Thank you
today.
for inviting me today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you. So tell us a little bit about these.
I upcycle kimonos. I get old kimono that was pre-owned, and I take it apart, iron it, and then cut it up into pieces and sew them back together. I do from design to, like sourcing of the fabric, from design to actually sewing and marketing. That's all by myself.
All by yourself?
For now.
Multitasking.
Yeah.
Multitasking. That's really great. So how did you end up doing this?
I didn't always use the upcycle fabric. I've been sewing close to 20 years. In the beginning, I was using regular fabric, making regular clothes, and I also did some wedding dresses, wedding items. I still make wedding dresses, but one day, one of my clients gave me an assignment to create something from kimono, and she sent me patterns and the fabric, and I was just there to sew. I was hired as a seamstress, and as I was working on it, I was amazed by the fabric and the texture, and it's just beautiful, and that's something that I never seen in fabric stores here or in the US, and I loved it, although I didn't really love the design. So I decided maybe I can try something by myself. So I went to old kimono shop called Tansuya and pick up a few kimonos, take it apart, re-washed it, and made it into a dress. The first one I sold it for 7,000 yen because I wasn't sure what to do with it. Yeah, I didn't think it would sell, but it sold right away.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So you said you've been sewing for 20 years.
Yeah.
What first brought you to sewing? Was it something that you learned from someone was close, or someone that you just picked it up?
Yes, my mom always, she was a crafty person, so she taught me how to patchwork, knit, crochet, all these little things. I remember as a young girl, sitting next to her, I always had like a basket full of, scrap fabrics and some yarns to create something, fun. Like dolls' clothes, I love playing with dolls, and she made clothes for the dolls, and I made like little fashion items like shoes and stuff. And as I got a little bit older, I would go to the library and, pick up like some craft books just to even look at it, and I love looking at the pictures, also the instructions. I would just, read from the start to finish and, just imagine what I could do, even if I don't, try my hands at the actual technique at that point. But then like from middle school to college, I completely forgot about all these fun hobby that I had, because I was too busy with working, studying, and doing the college life and stuff. I picked it up again after I graduated from university in the US and started working, because I had a lot of time. It was a 9-to-5 job, and after I came back, I didn't have kids, so I had a lot of time. And my friend let me borrow her sewing machine because she said maybe I can, make pillowcases and stuff around the house. And I did that for my new house. And after that, I was thinking, like, maybe I can make clothes. Because as a young professional working in the US, I didn't have, a whole lot of resources to buy nice clothes. And, and so the idea popped up in my head, and next day I decided to go to the fabric shop and bought patterns and fabrics and tried it. The first try was horrible because I could not wear my clothes. I forgot that it needed opening, whether it's buttons or zippers, or it needed to be elasticized. So yeah, I made it, but I didn't know how to put it on. Yeah, and that was after I spent 3 whole days trying to make it. But I was sure that like if I repeat the process over and over again, I'll be better at it, and I kept doing it.
Wow, wow. And I can tell you have a great passion for it because when you're talking about it, your eyes sparkle.
Yeah.
I don't know if the camera can pick that up, but
That's funny.
yeah, you can
Yeah.
see that it's something that you are very, very passionate about. That's great. So, um, where do you source the kimonos?
It comes from all over the places, all over the place. I go to like antique market. There are a few in Tokyo. I don't even want to tell them which one I go to because they're so good and I get a great deal. But I go there and pick them up. And also I search online for fabrics. If my clients have specific needs, like if it's like red, I don't know, like flower pattern with like gold embroidery on it or something, that's easier to search online. So I use Mercari for that. And a lot of the time, the fabrics are given to me. Recently, just today, I received 2 boxes full of kimono and obi because my friend's mom was, getting older and like she needed to reorganize her stuff and she was about to throw away the boxes of kimono, but she told her friend and her friend told her about me and it got shipped to me and I'm looking forward to opening my boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And I don't know that much about manufacture of kimonos, but so the fabric originally comes in those very long bolts of material, doesn't it? And
exactly.
they sew those up, and I can imagine that the sewing is actually very fine or detailed in order to pull that together. And you actually pull that all apart, do you? Take us through the process. So you've just got a new kimono, you've opened the box, and there's a whole lot of kimonos and obis and things in there. What do you start by doing?
I start by like picking it, like picking the seams and make it all flat in one fabric. Well, it's actually, it's already cut if it's in a kimono form, but I take apart where I can take apart. And it's usually 38 centimeters in width.
38?
Yeah, and very long. And I iron it, or sometimes I wash them. It depends on like what I will repurpose them into. If it's going to be something like this one, I would.
Oh, that's also repurposed, is it?
Yes, it was a summer kimono combined with like some, like ribs, elasticized rib. So I was gonna wash it, so I washed it ahead of time so that it pre-shrinks the fabric. But if it's dressy dress, like if I make like mermaid dress that's like long length and for parties and stuff, I don't wash it, just iron it and figure out how to place the patterns, because the patterns could be continuing throughout the fabric, and you have to connect these narrow panels in order to put it back into the shape. You can see the whole picture. Yeah.
So you've got a sort of a design, I guess, which is a picture in a sense, or and you have to sort of make sure it all lines up the different
right.
parts.
Yeah. Sometimes it cannot be put together perfectly because kimono is like straight, but regular clothes has curves.
Right.
So sometimes it don't match, but I try my best to make it look continual. Yeah.
And are there any particular, how can I ask this question? Are there any particular types or trends in kimono materials or design that, for instance, older kimonos are like this sort of pattern and younger kimonos are something different?
Oh, I think so, yeah.
Are there any sort of trends or fashions, I guess, that have happened in kimonos that you can observe?
I think so, yeah. Like younger, or like more recent ones are like more polyester made in.
Right.
Yeah, there are a lot of kimonos.
So the fabric is different.
Fabric is different. Fabric itself is different. Washable kimono, for the modern use. I personally love like kimono from Taisho period. That's kind of like when the Westernism came in, so it influenced the patterns, and the color is like pretty bold, and it's really fun. But yeah, I like any kind of patterns, and I love working with them because each of them are quite different. You know, you don't come across with the very like the same ones.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess it's not fast fashion, right? So
Right.
so you don't really have two pieces of the same.
Yep. Yep.
They're very, very different.
Yeah, over time I have seen very similar kimono. Like I could, just like point at it. It's like, oh, I have work on it for something else, but not exactly the same. So
Not exactly the same.
yeah.
Wow. Each kimono therefore has its own personality, its own emotions.
Yeah, you have to touch the fabric and feel the fabric in order to figure out what would best suit, like what type of garment would best suit, For instance, the white one is quite drapey, the pants.
Yes.
So it goes well with this, like, baggy, like, fit pants because it drapes well, right? Whereas, like, this obi I made into a bustier, it will be, when you wear it, it will be tight around the bodice and, you can really show the patterns and bright color and stuff. So, yeah, you kind of have to talk to fabrics.
Talk to fabrics.
Yeah, talk to fabrics. Yeah,
That's wonderful.
what do you want to be next?
Yeah, what do you want to be next? Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Do they answer?
I interpret the
You
answer
interpret
in my own way.
You're a fabric whisperer.
Yeah.
You're a fabric whisperer. I mean, sometimes when I've seen repurposed kimonos, you can tell it's a kimono, but just looking at these pieces, they're really quite extraordinary because they don't look like they've come from a kimono. I mean, when you feel a texture, you think, yes, this is a very kimono texture.
I think particularly for this shirt,
yeah.
I don't think you can tell that it's from kimono.
No.
Or even pants, I guess.
And the pants either.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like it was just a fabric.
I want people to be able to wear it, in daily life.
Right.
Because if it screams kimono, it's kind of, it draws attention. You might not want to, wear it on daily basis. For instance, this one, like, nobody can tell that it's kimono unless you tell them.
Yeah.
It's like, but, it is.
Yeah, that's amazing. And do you do stuff for men?
I have in
You
the
have?
past. Yeah, a
Do
few.
suits?
I've made suit,
made
and
a
I
suit?
try to avoid them. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
Tailoring is fun,
Yeah.
but I'm not an expert, and
Right.
it takes a long time.
A long time.
I understand why men's suits are expensive. Yeah.
I feel comforted by that statement.
Yeah.
So you start by either washing or
Yeah.
ironing, and then you're unpicking the fabric
Yeah.
first, the sewing, and then. So how do you come up with the designs?
Well, sometimes it's a client request, and they have particular idea, for a particular fabric. When I come up with the design, I have like, throughout the days, like I go through, different websites and like take snapshots, and also like when I go to museums and stuff, I get inspired by the texture, the shape, I try to make note of that. And I sketch and I keep it on the side until when I have time, and then like actually be able to work on it. And I also do like collaboration with some artists. I have an exhibition coming up in September, and she does she draws, and she also does the like what do you call it, like engraving with like a metal plate, and then you can print it many times. I don't know how we call it, dohanga.
Ah, right.
Yeah. I don't know.
Metal block print or something.
Yeah, something like that. So like she would give me those like ideas ahead of time, and I try to be, draw some inspiration from it to make something that kind of looks cohesive for our exhibition. So that's a time for me, myself to kind of expand and try different techniques and designs. Yeah.
I have so much admiration for anyone who can create things.
It's good for you. Using your hands is good for
I'm
you.
sure it is. I'm just totally hopeless at that, but that sort of thing.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be like sewing. It can be very small things, like, I don't know, attaching your own buttons, or, you discover.
That's even a little bit of a challenge for me, but
Or try and hem it with, they have hem tape
yeah,
at 100yen shop.
yeah.
Like, you can just like iron it and then hem your own pants.
Had your own pants.
Yeah, you always discover something new.
Something new.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or, yeah.
Okay, but so much admiration. So I can understand that you have designs that you might have sketched out, or that you've seen on the web, or a client might ask for. But I'm really, really intrigued as to how you can take a design and actually create something like this, because there's a lot that I guess goes in between that, right? So you just don't sort of have the design in your head or a piece of paper and you start. You have to decide what are the pieces going to be and how they're going to fit together. And if you're repurposing a kimono, you are to some extent constrained by the fact that you've only got 38 centimeters of width,
exactly.
and that you might have to match up the patterns and things like that. As you said before, kimonos are straight, and Western clothing tends to be a little bit sort of curved or shaped. So how do you actually get from the design concept or the picture to something that you can actually start sewing together?
Oh, I guess in between there's paper patterns.
You paper patterns?
Yeah, I always use patterns, and I modify patterns.
Right.
So I have basic block patterns. So for women's size medium or something, like I have a bodice pattern that fits well.
Which will fit,
Yeah, and then like I modify. Okay, the neckline this project has to be V-neck, so I change that. Or like the shoulder strap width could be different and stuff like that. So yeah, there's always paper pattern in between. I sometimes make new one, but most of the time we use the basic block because that has nice proportions and fit. So I know that, and I'll just take it and just change it up a little bit.
Change it up a little bit.
Yeah.
So you're also repurposing the paper patterns in a sense.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
And getting multiple use out of the same.
Yes. Yeah. And you mentioned about the kimono fabric limitation, and I was thinking about this the other day. Like that limitation itself, like it makes me more creative because it has some constraints. You have like when you face the difficulty. I was like, oh, I can't do this. Then you have to stop and think like, I can do this, and how. For instance, maybe I'll give you an example. Like the kimono fabrics don't have any stretch. Like this has stretch. Like a lot of modern fabrics is elasticized, right? But they don't. So I have to come up with a way to, make it more comfortable. Like for certain garments, for instance, like I came up with a way to cut it on bias, meaning there's fabric and the fabric has like the thread goes in on the horizontal direction and the vertical direction. It's weaved that way, and if you pull in horizontal or vertical direction, there's no stretch. But if you hold it in bias, it has a little bit of stretch, and you can create the comfortable garment by cutting pieces on bias. So I made the skirt on bias that drapes really well around the waist and hip and creates really, really nice shape. Or combining the fabric with other fabric, the kimono with other fabric, like this. Just having this has like different feel, like little more sporty and there's so many things you can do.
It's just amazing. Just how the creativity that goes into the way that you think about it, but also that goes into the actual process of doing this. So how long does it take you? So let's say I said, Chio-san, I'd like to have a dress made from an upcycled kimono. So from that point, the order, you have to go and find the kimono, and then you have to do how long does that process take?
The shortest or the longest?
On average, I guess.
On average, maybe 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Yep. Just because there's like back and forth between the customer and I, like there's a lot of communication. That's the difference between fast fashion, right? Like you have to kind of know their needs, and they need to communicate what they want clearly too, so I can understand and create. So it's not the actual sewing, but going back and forth and understanding their order. That takes a little bit more time. If it goes smoothly, you know, I can sew, for instance, like I can sew that top in like 3-4 hours. So that is not, you know, a problem. Yeah.
So about 3 weeks. So that means that you sort of, you're doing this on your own.
Yeah.
So you sort of kept to maybe 15, 16 pieces a year, or are you doing lots of different things?
Oh, a lot more than that.
A lot more than that?
Yeah.
How much do you do in a year?
I don't know. I never thought about by pieces.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. Like I have to do the math.
Right.
And I can't do it off top of my head. But yeah, a lot more than that.
A lot more than.
And it really depends on like items. Like I made this bustier and the similar one, which I forgot to bring today, and the pants over last weekend, like Friday and Saturday. So like I also sell at pop-up shops and online, so I have to have some stock. So when I'm not doing the client work, I'll sew for the shop. And that's much quicker because I'm not talking to anybody, you know. I have an idea and just like execute. Yeah.
Now I see. So you can do things consecutively, and you've got a number of different platforms or touch points to reach the customer. And so if you sort of organize that in a very strategic way, you can actually be extremely productive in terms of the way you use the time and the output. Okay. So you said that the first one you sold for 7,000 yen.
Oh, the first kimono dress,
So can you give us an idea of what the pricing looks like now?
Oh, right now, this bustier goes for 27,000.
Right.
And the pants 17,000. The top I forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which?
But the that's it for ready-made items.
Yeah.
For custom items, it's a little bit higher, and it depends on the item.
Right.
Yeah.
Which makes sense with your time.
Yeah.
You've got to invest the time in going back and forth. Well, I don't really know much about pricing of fashion items, but it doesn't sound. It sounds quite reasonable.
Oh, thank you.
17,000 for something that looks as cool as this pants.
I'm glad.
Doesn't seem at all expensive to me.
Yeah, the pricing is very difficult, right? Like I'm always trying to figure out like how to do that correctly, and I'm also starting to think like for somebody like me, it's okay to change the price depending on the season or the time. For instance, like if I'm busy and then I get rush order, the rush order has to, you know, be a little bit more expensive than regular. Because there's more demand and the supply is scarce. So I'm always thinking about like how to do it, but in a fair way, you know, because I don't want people to complain. It's like, hey, you made that for
someone else for 17,000, you charge me 27. Yeah.
Although I have never gotten that complaint.
No, I imagine you wouldn't. So it's demand-based pricing can also work.
It was always that way, you know, before the Industrial Revolution. Like, people haggle and, you know, decide on the price and stuff like that. But now, like, we're so used to, okay, so this can of tomato has to be 99 yen for everyone, you know, and people get upset, like, if it's higher. But, you know, this is a sustainable talk, so I think for some small business owners like me, it's more sustainable to have, you know, different type of pricing, and people start to accept it.
Well, ultimately, the optimum pricing is what people are willing to pay.
Yeah,
Right?
it's true.
And that's sometimes different because different circumstances may give people different ideas as to what they want to pay.
Yeah.
Or, some people may be willing to pay a premium to get something rushed or something done very quickly or at their timing. So that's right. What sort of people are buying this? Is it mainly Japanese local people, younger people, older people? Have you seen an increase in demand and interest from the huge influx of inbound tourists we have?
Actually, all of the above.
All of the above?
Yes, I was surprised because before this I was mainly doing wedding dresses, and that was a little bit difficult to have returning customers because they don't have any more than one wedding.
Well, we hope not anyway. Some people do.
Right. But you know what I'm saying, But so for wedding, like mainly late 20s to like late 30s women, Japanese. That was my client basis. But now, like, I have a variety of customers who are foreigners who are interested in Japanese culture or want some souvenir from here. Japanese younger people, like, who mainly buy online. I have really nice, like, little bit older, like a mature age group Japanese ladies who have their own kimono and they want to do something about it. Yeah. A lot of them are performers, like musicians, like play instruments and stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they want kind of like a stage show, like stage, like performance
Costumes,
dresses.
yeah. And from overseas, do you get?
Some, but I need to post more stuff in English. Marketing. Yeah, I haven't gotten to it.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure it'd be a great memento for someone coming. So in Harajuku they have that place called Oriental Bazaar, which has been there for years and years and years. And I know when I was much younger, whenever a visitor or a tourist came to Japan, you always used to make them they go to Oriental Bazaar because they sold all this wonderful, cool Oriental furniture and everything like that. But the visitors, the most popular item was always a yukata. And they'd always buy these yukata for, something not terribly good. They weren't terribly well made, I don't think, and they probably fell apart. But, people used to love to have them. And you'd always get a picture of, the family all dressed in their yukata when they got back to the States or Australia or something like that. But the yukata is not something you're going to be wearing outside to go shopping or, you're not really going to get a huge amount of use for it. It's a very novelty item. But to be able to purchase something that is actually recreated from a kimono is something quite special, I think.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, I think it would be quite special for people as a sort of a memento or something.
Yeah, I think just kimono obi itself, like it could be hung on a wall like as a souvenir or like used as a table
People
runner.
use it as table runners.
Yeah, but it would be even better like if you can actually wear it more often.
Exactly. And you can tell your friends and that sort of thing. So maybe you need to open a pop-up shop in Sensoji, in Asakusa or somewhere like that, an area where there's a lot of tourists.
Right. Yeah. That'd be great.
Yeah. So tell us a bit about your show, the exhibition that you're going to have in September.
Oh, in September. I'm collaborating with my artist friend who does the metal
printing,
wood blocking print, and it will be week-long in the shop Kichijoji, the small place called Catwalk Biju, and so like it will be. I still have to think about how to do the installation because it's always a challenge because I love making, but presenting my work in a way that's appealing to public is very difficult for me. So we'll figure out how to install like art with the clothes. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you do those sort of shows often? Or
Yeah,
exhibitions?
when the opportunities pop up, I try to take as much as possible. Yeah.
And generally collaborating with artists or
Yeah,
not necessarily?
artists. I've done the event with musician where, you know, the pianist will play the piano, and then I did a fashion show along with the music. Last show I had was in March. That was my solo show. That's like, yeah, I planned it for, you know, for my own. I invited a friend who is a live painter, and he painted on models' back with like some lotus flowers that was inspired by the dress that I made. So I love those kind of collaborations. It's really fun, and I do events not only to, you know, sell or show, but showcase my work, but also to like for people to, you know, have a space to collaborate themselves, you know, like even if you work, you know, an office job, they might have certain hobbies, and that's where they can come and like, you know, talk to the people who have similar interests, and you know, the new collaboration begins, or even friendship. And yeah.
And do you gave us a little bit of insight as to where you source the kimonos from, but it's mainly in Tokyo, and there are other. I mean, I sort of think that maybe in some of the more regional areas of Japan, perhaps where, you know, smaller towns where you have an older population, that's maybe a little bit more conservative than Tokyo, you might have more kimonos, or is that?
I assume so. It's unexplored.
It's unexplored.
Yeah,
Okay.
like when I buy online, you know, it gets shipped from wherever, and a lot of the time I don't know where it gets shipped from, because, you know, when you use Mercari, like the sender and the receiver's address are hidden. You know, only the delivery company knows where they're you know, shipping from. So a lot of time I don't know where they're from. The antique markets that I go to, that's in Tokyo. So I imagine, you know, they might buy it from overseas, you know, like the suburb or like a countryside. But I never really asked.
You never really asked. Do you ever, as your, because every kimono would have a story attached to it.
Yeah.
Right. You said you talk to the kimonos and listen to them, but every kimono would have in some ways a story about the owner, or a story of how the kimono ended up in an antique market, or there must be the stories must be so rich. Do you ever think about, as you're cutting a kimono or as you're unplugging it, as to imagining what sort of story this kimono might have had behind it? Like, you might see a kimono that has, I don't know, a particular design, or maybe it has a little bit of stain or dirt on it somewhere, and you can sort of construct a sort of, you know, imaginary story around it.
It would be very interesting to buy kimono from like individuals and ask them the story, and then recreate something else, and then exhibit it with along with the story. That would be really nice.
That'd be amazing.
You just gave me an idea.
Yeah, great. I'm glad. No, that I think would be amazing, to be able to have the story, because we talk so much about, you know, I work in communications, and we talk so much about storytelling, and it is quite powerful, and the ability to, you know, not only have great design and great manufacturing, but also to understand the backstory behind. As long as it's a nice backstory, but, you know, understanding the backstory is just fascinating for people. You know, this kimono was, you know, bought by this person in Kyushu, and you know, she travelled all the way to Tokyo and ended up getting married, and you know, she kept this kimono that her mother had given her when she was coming to Tokyo, and she always wore it in this particular time during the Taisho era. would be fascinating
Yeah, that would be
to
great.
do that. Do you ever go to thrift shops? I mean, I
Yeah,
guess
I go to thrift shops. Yeah.
and they have a lot of kimonos, I guess.
Yep. Sometimes I go to the one near my hometown in Saitama.
Yeah.
And certain days they have like sales day, so I ask my mom to source for some specific items. I love thrift shopping. Yeah. Like even before like I started using kimono, like I like, looking at antique, like vintage clothes, because the details are amazing. Like sometimes I go to Koenji, go through, there are a lot of antique stores, and even if I don't buy anything, I just go in and like look at inside the garments and like see how it's finished, and because it's different. Yeah, they put so much more time and thoughts into it, and I love looking at them. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it is very different from fast fashion, right? I guess.
Yeah.
Historically, people would wear hand-me-downs rather than go out and buy something, and so they need to last longer, and so they need to spend more time with them as well. So you can sort of understand that that meant that a lot more, I guess, care and dedication went into making the original one, and that's now in a way sort of being repeated by you in the care and dedication you're showing.
I hope so.
For sort of unpicking it and recreating it into something that is going to continue to be loved and worn and create a whole new set of stories. For people.
I get asked to modify clothes too. They buy wedding dresses. I still do the weddings, and they buy cheap wedding dresses from China or something, and then the size didn't fit or it was not as they expected it to be, so it gets shipped to me and I modify it and look at the inside of the garment. It's like a little bit hard. Because it's really bad, and it gets worse. It's just getting worse. Like not only the fabric is crappy, it feels like saran wrap, and but the threads all over the place. Like when you sew, like from the start and the end, like their threads come out and you have to cut them, but it's just like left as is, and and like when you try to take apart to fix something, it just like falls apart. It's pretty bad. Yeah.
And so you actually take something like that and you improve it.
Sometimes, I get asked. Basically, when it comes to clothes, you can ask me anything, and I'll try to make it happen.
Wow.
I'll take it as like a personal challenge.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, I just wanted to ask a little bit about the wedding dresses, because to my mind, wedding dresses must be extremely complicated, and even more than everyday clothes or even something that's a little bit dressy up. A wedding dress has so much emotion attached to it as well. Right. So
the people who order
it, and the mood they're in at the time, and then obviously whether the family likes it, the mother likes it, or and there's so much emotion and that surrounds the choice of that wedding dress or the design. So how do you go about creating, and I imagine that a wedding dress is quite complicated to actually sew as well. It seems to be a lot of parts.
It's more time, more process. But I think the most difficulty is the weight. Because like as you sew, it gets heavier and heavier. And then like try to put it on my lap and like try and maneuver it with the little space that I have. And that's difficult because sewing machine goes like this. There's like only little space here to move around.
That's right.
That's what I find the most difficult. Not the length of time or the details. It's just like when it gets heavy. It's not all wedding dresses. Like if it's simple one with mermaid shape or something. That's not that. But if you have many layers, you just like carry it, up and down, up and down.
Yeah.
It's an exercise because I go on the floor to cut fabric and then bring it to the ironing board and then sew and like back down again. Like after doing it for 2 hours or something, I was like, oh, I worked out today. Yeah.
Wow. And are there any particular fabrics that generally, apart from kimonos, that you like working with, or fabrics that you don't like working with? Do you have any particular preferences?
I like natural fabric, natural fiber, silk, linen, cotton.
Yeah.
I don't know, a bit snob, but
Yeah.
it's really nice on the skin. Although like polyester is not bad, like it's less prone to wrinkling, though when you're traveling it's good to have that. And obviously you cannot create workout wear like gym wear with silk, it has to be like elastine or
Right.
So everything has purpose for it, but yeah, for regular clothes I like natural fibers.
And is there any particular fiber or material that you find really, really easy to work with?
Linen, maybe?
Linen.
Yeah.
Linen.
Yeah.
Because it's light and
There's different types of linen, like lightweight, heavier weight, but it's very easy to iron. Like when you press, like it creases very well, which I like. If it's polyester or some synthetic fabric, it doesn't fold. And then like when the ironing temperature is too high, it burns. So it's quite frustrating.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Have you ever thought of going the other way?
Going the other way.
Repurposing, say, a wedding dress into a kimono?
I never thought of that. Is it possible? Even?
I don't know. It
I
could
don't
be
know.
a challenge.
I repurposed old wedding dress of bride's mom into a wedding dress, but not to kimono. I don't know how to sew kimono.
Right. Is it different? You think it's very different?
Yeah, they do it by hands.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's a different type of sewing.
Yeah.
And yeah. Maybe I have to ask my friend who does that.
Yeah. Because to go the other way would also be fascinating.
Yeah, and like the kimono is they have different varieties nowadays. You don't have to wear in a certain way. I've seen like girls wear with like, ruffles and the pants underneath, or even the hoodie inside the kimono jacket. So you can wear it in creative way, and you could repurpose wedding dress. Yeah, anything is possible. Maybe.
Anything's possible. Wow.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the future. How do you see this developing for you going forward? Where would you like to be, say, in 5 years? Do you want to have a whole network of people who are helping you to repurpose kimonos, or are you happy to continue doing it yourself? How do you want to expand the market?
It also needs to match with my lifestyle, and I like to have things develop organically and slowly. So right now, I still have kids at home, and I don't want to be out too long. So that requires me to, keep this business in a certain size. But I would love to have my own shop. I'm trying to make sense of this because, obviously the profit margin wise, selling it from pop-up shops or online, it's higher, like you don't have to pay rent, electricity and stuff like that. You don't have to be there, and also you have to be ready to either have a staff constantly, or you go there every day. So I'm still like trying to make sense of it in my head, but having my own shop, the attractiveness just keeps coming back to me, like having like a little space that people can come and chat, and the ideas are born, and have some parties, to connect people. That would be great, like one day. Maybe not now, but
But maybe there's more warmth in having bricks and mortar shop,
Yeah.
and you can, as you said, you can use that to be building a community. But it's a different community than what you would have, say, online. It's
Sure.
an online community.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that there's a lot of things you can do.
But
with
every
having
time,
your own shop.
yeah, every time I do some events, like, whether it's a handmade marché or exhibition, like in-person events, like I feel like it's a tremendous value for me to meet people, in person, even if they don't buy, like they just come and talk, or, I really value this one-to-one communication, not just online. So I want to see, how that develops.
Yeah. If you had a shop, where would you have it? Do you think? Is there a favorite area?
That's a difficult question too, but I maybe some places that has artisan, like a crafter like me, whether Nippori Yanaka or Asakusa Bashi or maybe Kuramae, things like that. I don't know. I have to explore.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to sort of build that sort of community around, and sort of just have your shop as being a place where all those creative people could just drop by and sort of talk about and exchange ideas and have different things.
Yeah, and one day, like when I get really old, I want to make my own museum.
Your own museum?
Yeah,
Wow.
I'll buy like a little plot of land in middle of nowhere, and people have to come for that.
Right.
And it will be a beautiful building and like have, like nice couture items exhibited, and I can do workshops. Like let's do, make this together. Like when I'm old.
Yeah.
Yeah. And half retired.
Well, you've got a long way to go yet.
That would be a fun
so you
idea.
can have a shop, and then you can have a chain of shops, and eventually you can have the museum at the end.
Yeah.
Have you thought about taking it overseas and doing it, or have you done an exhibition overseas? You said that you went to school in the States, so.
Not exhibitions. I sold at boutiques in the U.S. and Australia, but since moving back to Japan, not really. I would love to. Like I would love to bring this to Europe. I think Europeans will appreciate it a little bit more.
Yeah. Actually, I think a couple of years ago, we did have as a guest a young lady who was working with kimonos.
Okay.
And she'd grown up in Europe, and she was exclusively selling into Europe.
Okay.
She just said that the fashion sense of the Europeans was somewhat different, and that it lent itself very much to and also Europeans are much more obviously sustainability conscious.
That's true.
I think.
Yeah.
They have education at the school around sustainability, so there's just much greater sense, and so recycling and repurposing tends to be something that's very, very resonant with the Europeans. So I can imagine you to have your shop in London somewhere too.
London?
Yeah. No, London.
I was thinking like either Italy or France.
Italy or France, well.
But like London. Why not?
I
would love to.
Fashion, I guess. Yeah, but I just imagine this store in London where people are coming to pick up
that would be
recycle
great.
items from Japan.
Yeah.
Because, and do you want to continue sort of just doing it on your own? You talk about a shop, or is the idea of having a chain of shops where people are all going to be coming something that doesn't appeal to you, or?
Maybe not. If I have I was thinking like I could outsource certain items.
Yeah.
Say like, for instance, like bustier could be an item where I can ask the factory to make a bunch of them and sell it in a certain stores. But I really like things are around me, all the ideas and the production. Like it's only me, but and I'm hoping that I'll get some help in terms of sewing or marketing, because you have to let it go to let it grow a little bit. I know that, but I haven't been able to. That's I am hoping it grow organically as well. Like when the opportunity presents itself, I would like to say yes.
Yeah, when the time will come when
Yeah.
you may be presented with that decision.
Yeah.
Or that choice that you need to
Yeah.
then, you can go one way or the other. So, what advice would you have for anyone who is a young person who's interested in fashion, be interested in perhaps trying to sew or create fashion items, whether from scratch or whether through repurposing, because you can see that you obviously enjoy it, you're very passionate about it, you're very good at it. But what about someone who's thinking, gee, it's something that I really would like to do, but I'm not quite sure how to go about it?
Well, we have internet, and my background is not fashion at all.
Yeah.
I went to school for journalism,
Right.
and my work was completely different.
Yeah.
But if you have willingness and you
Yes.
spend time on it, you will be good at it. I search everything on YouTube, like how to install zipper, make buttonholes. And I try many times and try, and like over time you get good at it. And I think I learned it from, learning how to play the piano, because I started piano when I was 6, and I took lesson until when I was 20, and that's a lot of practice.
You must be good.
Well, I don't know. My hands are kind of rusty now, but one thing I learned, and I appreciate my mother for pushing me into this direction, was that like practice makes it perfect.
Yeah.
You really have to spend time, and not like blindly. If one method doesn't work, we have to search for another method and try. And from there, like, I had confidence when I started sewing, I will be really good at it because I was willing to spend time. And it's like it doesn't have to be sewing. It could be cooking, it could be sports. Like, if you like, you'll get it. You'll be good at it.
I think people used to say you have to spend 10,000 hours.
Yeah, it's a Malcolm Gladwell.
That's right. Doing something, Malcolm Gladwell doing something for 10,000 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Before you actually get good at it.
Yeah, we should actually count how many hours you're spending on it.
Yeah.
I was in the beginning. I had an Excel spreadsheet of my work hours.
Wow.
And how much I spent. I stopped doing it because I work every day anyway. But 10,000 hours is quite a lot.
That's
It's
a lot,
even if you do 3 hours per day, it's like 6 years or something.
Right.
So don't get discouraged until you get to that point.
Yeah, you have to have dedication, right?
Yeah.
And commitment.
Yeah.
To the cause.
And have to have fun with it.
Yeah. Okay, Chie-san, it's been an absolutely
thank you so much.
Wonderful discussion. I really enjoyed this, and
Me too.
I wish you all the best, and please do continue to create these wonderful items, and wish you all the success.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been fun.